Yo, top of the morning, y'all. It's your boy Kenny coming at you once again with another recap. It's episode 6 of the third season. That's right, we're coming at y'all once again with Mandalorian, baby. Mandalorian, episode 6, season 3. It's going down. Spoiler review. We're recapping the whole thing. So make sure if you haven't seen the episode yet, you don't watch this yet, hop on over to Disney Plus, watch that thing, and then jump back over here and treat us as your after show and all of that. If you're listening to these episodes over on the podcast feed, I do have to update that today, so that should be updated by the time you guys see and hear this. So make sure you're doing that. And if you've been listening over there and haven't been checking out the YouTube, make sure you hop on over to our YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? At Fandom Frequency. You'll find us over there. We got a lot of videos and exclusive content that goes down there. But we also got a lot of the video versions of the episodes you guys will be hearing on the podcast feed. And we got exclusive content for the podcast feed, vice versa. So make sure you're subscribed, following the pages, and all that stuff. So that way you don't miss any of it. With no further ado, enough of the advertisements. Let's get back to this thing right here and getting into some of my overall thoughts on the episode. I really dug it. I had a really good time with it overall. Now, I do think there were some corny moments. I do think there were some moments that weren't as strong. Bryce Dallas Howard did return to direct this one as well, and I won't necessarily say this was her strongest episode, but by no means was it a bad episode, and I don't necessarily think it's even her weakest episode either, because there are some definite super duper highs in this episode, that is for sure. So as we kind of recap and go through more of the details, you'll kind of tell kind of where I'm more positive on it. But overall, I loved everything that was going on with Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. A little bit of the mission of the week that they were going on with that noir kind of detective style going on with the investigation was actually really cool in the way that they started it, alluding to her going back to meet up with the people that were in her clan, the people that she was the leader of, that are now under the other guy now. The guy that was actually along with her and Casca Reeves, aka Sasha Banks' character in season 2. So that was all really good. I really love the way they ended the episode there, ended on a very high note, and have been tying into the overall ascension of Bo-Katan's character into really taking that leadership position in the whole Mandalorian culture as we know it, and that could really mean some very big things for the potential rest of the season and the potential rest of the series, because if she is the leader, then she has to be featured in the series quite often, correct? Unless Din Djarin goes off on some other far-off adventure like he was doing in the first 2 seasons for the most part. But for the meantime, at least for the rest of this season, Bo-Katan definitely seems like she is going to be one of the main characters in everything going on with her. I'm absolutely loving, and I think Din Djarin finally got some really great moments to shine in the last episode, but this episode especially, he really got some fun and badass moments to really shine, some good character moments and everything like that. Some really great exchanges with Bo-Katan and the overall dialogue where he's a lot more aggressive and out there with his thing, and then she's like, "Hey, man, let me try it my way." You know what I mean? So I like the whole dynamic that they have as well. And Grogu kind of got sidelined with Lizzo and Jack Black, which we'll get more into in a bit, which was kind of the part of it that I wasn't necessarily hating or anything, but was necessary. It was kind of taking me out a little bit, just a little bit. But I thought they were pretty good overall acting wise, especially Jack Black. He's a very good seasoned actor, and I don't think Lizzo did necessarily a terrible job either. But I do think it was a little distracting, at least for me. Maybe it's just because I have a big recognition of who those people are, but maybe some people that don't, you know. So, whatever. But that for me was a little bit distracting. But overall, it was a good episode. Really did a lot of great character building and pushing the plot forward at the same time while having a little bit of a mission of the week, if you will. So that True Blue, David Filoni style, is still very present in this season. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We'll get more into that. Is it mixed? We'll get more into it in the kind of conclusion of this episode. But now we're going to get into the recap portion of this episode, going through all the big plot points and everything that went down throughout the episode. So starting off, they end up on this planet, and I forget the name of it. I apologize. But they end up on the planet, and as they're flying in, they're discussing the fact that Bo-Katan is going back to meet up with her people and try to take back leadership over them and unite the Mandalorian culture. And that's the plan going into it, and they end up on the way, while they're, sorry, got a little mixed up there. what I was trying to say is, as they were pulling in everything, Grogu's just listening to the conversation and everything like that. And then as they land on the planet and everything, they end up going into the main, downtown area and everything like that. They go up to the palace in order to talk to the overall people in charge and everything like that. Grogu's along for the ride, and Bo-Katan's like, "Hey, man, so let's try to make sure, let's see what's going on. We'll see what happens with everything." And as they're coming in, they get interrupted and approached by the magistrate or the leaders of this planet, if you will, played by Lizzo and Jack Black, as I mentioned earlier. And they commission these guys to do a job for them because they got these droids having these malfunctions running around the planet harming people and shit and whatnot. And they agree to give their homeworld of Mandalore, put a petition in or something like that for them to become, a sovereign state or whatever the hell is going on with the New Republic and all that stuff. But that doesn't really sway them very much. And, Bo and Mando are like, all right, fine, we'll help you out here. So they decide to help out, and they begin investigating and looking into, all these different droids and into these battle droids that have been decommissioned, supposedly from combat, and have been, reprogrammed to be helpers on the planet. And the people on this planet are heavily reliant on droids to do a lot of things for them, in like some a la Wally type style. So it's one of those planets apparently. So as Bo-Katan and Din are going into this thing, and as we all know, Din has a very, very big disdain for droids in general. Although he's gotten a lot more tolerant of droids, that's for sure. He definitely is not a big fan of them. So going into it, Bo's like, "Hey man, let's just try to keep everything chill. Let's try to go in level-headed, so that way, we don't have to go into a lot of unnecessary, conflict or whatever." And he's like, all right, whatever. You do it your way, I'll do it my way. You know what I'm saying? So Mando's just being Mando, doing his thing, and then they end up, looking into it and trying to investigate and see who they can talk to that's in charge of the droids or has a lot of knowledge or some kind of, say so over what the droids are doing. And they go over to Christopher Lloyd's character of all people. That's right. I said Christopher Lloyd. Great Scott. That's right. Doc Brown himself. Tons of different great movies over the years. Clue, Adam's Family Values, lots of stuff, man. But good to see Christopher Lloyd up in here, and he did a hell of a job, by the way. I didn't want to mention that in my overall thoughts. I wanted to wait till this recap portion. I forget his character's name, but he ended up being a separatist and everything like that, and that was super interesting to me. And as we kind of get to that portion of it in just a little bit, we'll get more into that. But that was just super interesting to me, and all the name drops he was doing and everything going on there. But yeah, as they investigate him for the meantime, they do suspect him, but he's all, "Oh, we can't turn the droids off. These people are too dependent on it. It will cause a panic and all this other shit." But as we find out later, he has nefarious reasons for not wanting to do so, and that button is actually catastrophic and is there for a different purpose. But we will find that out later. So as we continue through the episode, they continue their investigation and run into some Ugnaughts and everything. And they end up giving some insight into where the droids could possibly end up, because Bo-Katan goes in questioning at first, and she's over here talking about their droids are malfunctioning and shit. And the Ugnaughts are like, "Hey, what the fuck did you just say?" Because they take offense to that kind of thing. But luckily, Din Djarin knew our boy, Queel, Queel, in the first season, the Ugnaught that was helping him out with IG 88 and everything like that, and how he reprogrammed him to look out for Grogu overall, as opposed to trying to kill Grogu as it was programmed to before, the asset, as it was saying in the first episode of season 1, premiere episode, if you will. But yeah, so everything going on there. So he learned how to communicate with them, Din Djarin, that is, through talking to Quill. So he's over here like this, I have spoken and everything like that. And then he kind of smooths it over and ends up getting them to give him a device that will allow him and Bo to have a probability of where the next droid is possibly going to malfunction, and where they're going to be at and everything in their location. So they use this device, and they end up tracking down these battle droids that are walking in this little assembly line or whatever. And then you got the Roger droids over there doing their thing, telling these fools what to do. And then as everything progresses, Din's over there like, hey, what's up? Bo starts actually questioning him, and then trying to keep things chill. And then Din Djarin comes in all hot and shit, and he's like, hey man, do I have to fuck you up or what? And then the droid's like, hey man, chill out, like no one's malfunctioning here. And then he starts kicking the battle droids, man. And the droid's like, hey, what are you doing? Stop kicking the droids, He's like, shit, if you do that, then it's probably bound. They're probably bound to fucking malfunction at that point. Don't fuck with them, at least. Jeez. And then one of them ends up going haywire, of course, and starts throwing shit and shooting lasers off. And then Din and Bo have to chase him through the city and shit like that. And eventually they end up catching up to him. But it took a hell of a lot of effort, that's for sure. Din had to jump through a window and everything, and then he starts shooting at the droid. And it was a whole freaking fiasco, man. Him running through the town and everything. And this whole freaking place had like a straight up Blade Runner kind of vibe going on. And this whole episode, up until this point, was actually having a lot more of a noir vibe as well, because they actually ended up going to this one lady that was, in the computers and whatnot, and was doing all this research to figure out the coding and all that stuff after they caught this droid, and figure out, what's going on with it, what's the ins and outs, what's actually going on. And she figures out that these droids were not made by the New Republic. They were bought by an independent person. And that independent person, and that person that was doing it illegally, because this is not a legal thing to do, obviously, was none other than, whatever his name was, supervisor something, but Christopher Lloyd's character, of course. So that's when all of the identity of who is behind all this droid stuff is revealed, and they end up going to confront him, and that's when he ends up dropping all of that name drop stuff with Count Dooku and being a separatist and not being with the Republic or not being with the Empire and everything like that. And Bo-Katan was the one that actually name dropped it at first. She's like, oh, you're a separatist? And he's all like, whatever, labels, blah, 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 it doesn't matter to me, And he's all, Count Dooku was a revolutionary and he was taken out way before his time, way before his prime, by the Jedi and shit like that. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I love that Star Wars lore getting dropped like that, man. Seeping into the episode right here. Really good stuff. And notice how I skipped over the other Jack Black and Lizzo moments, because they're not important to the story, really. But those were some of the moments that I thought were corny and didn't necessarily fit. But I understood they had to address where Grogu was and everything going on like that. But anyways, moving on. So they end up arresting him, because Bo-Katan shoots him with like a shocking device thing when he's distracted, so he doesn't end up pressing the button to completely turn off all the droids and everything like that around the whole city. And, the day is saved for the meantime and whatnot, but then Bo-Katan still has to go address her people that left her that left her side or whatever. And she goes over there to challenge the other guy that's become their new leader for their role, and they have a really kick-ass fight, and it goes on for a minute, and they're turning their jetpacks on, tackling each other, really duking it out, and Bo-Katan does end up winning and making him yield, but he doesn't want to listen to her and doesn't want to comply with the agreement of the duel, because she doesn't have the Darksaber. She didn't beat Din Djarin for the Darksaber, but then he clarifies a technicality, apparently, that since he got knocked out by the Mythosaur, doesn't mention it's a Mythosaur, of course, or not really the Mythosaur, but actually by the other weird droid thing that captured him, had the Darksaber until she got the saber back and saved his ass. So he says since she had to save his ass and used the Darksaber better than him and had to use it to do so, he yielded and has to give her the sword, and now she is the rightful leader in all Mandalorians' eyes, from all different sides and aspects of the culture, to lead them and unite their people, and this is the way. And then everyone wants to agree, and that's when we get the glorious shot of him giving her the sword, him stepping back, and her freaking igniting the Darksaber, and you get that sick-ass shot of Bo-Katan right there, and bam, that's the end of the episode, man. And overall, I really dug the episode. It was a lot of fun. Some really awesome Mandalorian culture stuff mixed in there towards the end, which is my favorite aspect of the season and the show so far, and everything going on like that. the overall mission of the week was okay. It wasn't necessarily bad or terrible or anything like that. I've definitely seen much worse. I've seen straight up filler episodes and different things, even Star Wars shows to a degree before. I wouldn't really necessarily call this that because there were some very integral pieces of the lore and the story going on in the beginning and end of the episode, and some really fun stuff during the middle of it, that's for sure, and some good world building for the New Republic and things going on. And I accidentally skipped over the droid bar scene, damn, what's it called? The Reaver or something like that. But that was a really cool scene at the droid bar where they were actually investigating the droids, and all the droids were actually down to help and were very cooperative with everything going on. And I liked the actual dialogue they had back and forth with the droid, and it felt very, like I said, that noir vibe was definitely very much there with them being at the bar and with them investigating him and the lighting and just the way that they were framing the shots and everything. So that was really, really cool. I definitely wanted to make sure I mentioned that because I almost forgot about that, because I couldn't find any good clear photos of that section of the episode. But that was really, really cool. The whole Reaver droid bar scene, I really, really dug that. But yeah, but overall, this was a fun episode. Really dug it. But I will say, though, I do think this is maybe the weakest season of the series so far. Now, I'm not saying necessarily for sure, but I am starting to get that feeling now that we're over halfway through the season that this might, it all depends where these next 2 episodes go, but this might be the weakest season of the series so far. Not a bad season by any means, but I do think this might be the weakest season that we've had so far. I would love to hear what y'all think about that down there in those comments below the video. And if you're listening on audio, make sure you jump over to our social media and let us know over there. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, and all you people out there, all your thoughts on that. But that's pretty much it for the episode. Damn good, not great, but definitely a fun episode and another good installment of The Mandalorian. Still think Bryce Dallas Howard did a fantastic job with the episode. Really awesome action scenes and everything going on there. Really cool chase sequences. Really love the way that she shot everything, and she's always very, very dynamic in that way with it. So thought the direction was good. I really love the way the episode ended off. Really love the way that they're carrying this Mandalorian storyline forward. Love all of that world building for the culture there. Love the New Republic world building. We're really getting a sense for where things are at in this period of Star Wars in between, the OG trilogy and the new sequel trilogy, if you will. So really love all that world building. Really love the way they're doing things there. Make sure you stay tuned and don't sleep on anything we got going on this week. We got a John Wick review that's going to be going up just after this pretty soon here. By the time y'all see this, and make sure you're not going anywhere. We got some more Scream content for my horror fans out there, and then we're going to start getting into some more niche content, as well as some of the other bigger releases and somewhat other things going on this month, like Super Mario Brothers and Evil Dead Rise later this month. So make sure you stay tuned for all the dopeness we got coming on the channel. Thank you for watching and listening, and until next time, make sure you stay tuned, don't sleep, stay safe out there, and we'll see you again soon. Peace.